My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubois. And, have you ever wondered how an insurance appraisal turned real estate investor thrives in the market? Today, I've got Albert Belo. That's my best shot at his last name. I'm sure he'll correct me with us. He's sharing his secrets from doubling profits in the midst of COVID to tackling diverse projects. Albert, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you. And pronunciation was perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. So, the most depressing question always with real estate is like, what got you into real estate, and what was the origin story like when you got started?
With me, it was a pretty big challenge in my life. I went through a divorce in 2015, and I had to walk away with very little money, of course. And, I had never rented before in my life. I went from my parents to, home with my spouse at the time. And, I didn't know what it was like to rent, but I knew I didn't want to rent because, that's paying someone else's mortgage. So I scraped what I had together, and I bought this really old townhouse, 30 years old, all original, everything inside. And I actually took this house, I took possession of it with no furnace and no AC. That's how,
Oh, wow.
How I took possession of this place. And of course, I had to put a furnace in right away. So 3 years later, I renovated this place while working 7 days a week. I was working 3 jobs at the time to get back on my feet. And I just ended up discovering by accident, just through going through that life challenge, I ended up discovering how much I loved, transforming this place, right? I did all the work myself, and 3.5 years later, I sold it for a really good profit, and went on to do my second flip right after that. So
and
that's how I stumbled into it.
That thing, right? Because you moved into it, worked on it while you were working. So you'd work all day and work all night.
Yeah. Work all night, weekends. It was nonstop while working 2 other jobs on the weekend.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, and you got to get it done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
After that project, have you been consistently doing the next one, or did you just do one at a time? What's your process on that?
I did one at a time. I did one right after that, which that one I was done. I bought a little bit nicer condition home after that. And it was funny because I sold that place. The price I sold it for, I actually bought for in a town further north, right? So I basically, the price point was exactly the same. And, I basically took that house, and that house was about 3 to 4 months. And I just basically, I blitzed it. So I was every evening after work, weekends, just did more cosmetic things, and got that place ready in 3 to 4 months. And then I basically lived in it for 3 years. I got to enjoy it this time, right? Because the first one, I kind of worked for 3.5 years straight and didn't really get to enjoy the place. And then I sold it. So this one, I said, I'm going to do this a lot quicker. It's less work. I'm going to do it quicker. I'm going to enjoy it a little bit. And that was actually the property that I sold during COVID, and I doubled the value on the sale.
Nice. So what does the portfolio look like these days?
Right now, I'm not holding anything. I've been mainly focusing on flips. I did, however, I got exposed to do my first cottage this year with a couple of partners. So we basically gutted a cottage on the water. We still own it. We tried to sell it, but with the market the way it was, end of the summer, it wasn't the greatest. So we're holding it till spring now. But that was actually a really fun experience for me. Cottage is pretty old. It's a cute little cottage, and we basically took it and transformed it completely inside. So it looks really great.
Yeah, it's always
And
a challenge getting the materials out that far, no matter where the
yeah,
cottage is.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like it's there's no Home Depot, right? So it's like you
yeah.
got to really be concise with your orders because you're missing something. It's going to be a drive into town. I remember we renovated my grandparents' cottage, and it was about maybe an hour from Moose Jaw, but an
Mm,
hour nonetheless. You miss that elbow in your plumbing loadout. You're like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
we're short 190. Oh, better
yeah.
get in the car. It looks like we're going into town. So, yeah, there's always challenges with the cottage. So,
Mm.
yeah, definitely selling in the next market. I'm sure you'll get exactly or more because it seems like the market is heating up just a little bit. So,
Yeah.
what would you say your major challenge has been as you were going through that journey?
The cottage, the challenge for me was not accounting for my time as well as the mileage.
The mileage, the
Like
biggest one.
I did 30,000 kilometers in 4 months. So
Wow.
it was quite a bit, I mean, the fuel cost is there too, but really the amount of mileage on the vehicle as well as it was 3 hours each way, right? So it's 6 hour
Mhm.
commute. Towards the end, I was going there 4 or 5 times a week. It wasn't with my current lifestyle, it wasn't feasible for me to stay there. That probably would have been a cheaper route to stay there
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
get an Airbnb or something, but just couldn't do that. And so that was my biggest challenge. Is the definitely the distance is number one, and number two is the mileage.
Yeah, or
So
stay in like a trailer or something on the land,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
stay closer than further. So, um when you look at um where you are now, we were talking a little bit before the show, and you were saying, um I've started to sub myself out to people that I want to help as far as your renovations, because you'd been mostly just doing them for yourself, right?
yes.
And so now you're kind of expanding um, your horizon. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, I belong to a few real estate groups, and you get to know people, become friends, and whatnot. So
Mhm.
I recently I've stepped into the condo flipping market. It's actually a nice
Mm.
nice change of pace because you're warm, right? It's winter time,
Yeah.
so I get to be indoors.
Hmm.
And also it was something that one of my partners is heavily into flipping condos, and so I wanted to see what that avenue looked like, and just get my feet wet in there, and that way I have that experience. And so right now I'm currently finishing one that I've been doing the last month for another investor. So I did the full out reno,
Hmm.
other than plumbing, electrical, and tiling. That I usually sub out to
Hmm.
someone more qualified, and obviously with the qualifications is more important, especially with plumbing and electrical.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun that way. Like I like to help people, and investors specifically. I really like working with real estate investors.
Hmm.
It's much more different than stepping into the residential market. I've been there back when I was in construction. I used to work with homeowners,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I prefer to be
Nothing's
on the real
ever.
estate investing side.
Well, it seems like the expectations for a real estate investor are pretty firm, whereas the
Right.
expectations from a homeowner are like constantly in fluctuation based on whatever you
Right.
finished today. It's like, oh, well, I like that, but now that I'm seeing that, do you think we could do that? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
no, things are changing and always changing. So, um, what would you say the biggest difference between, say, a residential flip and a condo flip in your experience?
Biggest difference, obviously, you have your challenge of getting the materials upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess the biggest dynamic is working with the board, getting approvals, as well as dealing with the super on site, right? You're going to deal with
Yeah.
different people all the time. So, we had a bit of a rocky start on this one in the beginning with the super. But now, the relationship's great. Towards the end, they got to know us, got to know how we work, see that we're respectful and we're working around them. So it's totally fine now, but in the beginning it was a bit challenging.
Yeah,
So, and
I'm
then of
sure.
course, you know, you get upstairs and you're like, oh, I need another tool. So you got to run downstairs. So, I mean, I'm getting a lot of workout just by running down the stairs, right? So,
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is they typically have like working hours that,
yes.
when you're doing a residential, like fixing a house, like it can go, especially when you're working interior, like it could go late.
Mm.
But in the condo, um, yeah, we had like it was like a 9 to 5 type window. Like you couldn't work after
Yeah.
5 o'clock and no working
Yeah.
on Sundays. So definitely there's more parties involved with what you can do and access to the elevator and all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing that I liked the most was the fact that I didn't have to deal with the windows or the exterior. It's just like what's inside
Yes.
the shell.
Yeah.
What
It's
can you
just the
do?
shell inside. It's much, much easier that way. You know, you're dealing with some challenges on how they build the condo as well. You
Yeah.
know, it's metal
Yeah. This
studs. Some walls are
pillar,
very
this
thin.
pillar can't be moved. You can't
Yeah.
take this
Yeah.
wall out 100%. You can't do
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's a little bit of a little challenge, but again, typically the renovation doesn't include exterior paint or roofing or eaves troughs or any of that stuff because
Right.
it's just all interior. So, um, with all the stuff you've been doing in real estate, what would you say is your biggest challenge these days?
Biggest challenge these days, I think, is you know, it's more of the unknown. Like, do I jump in? Do I not jump in? Right. I would say that's number one thing on my mind right now, just because the market's been kind of up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, you can always, as a backup plan, I always tell myself, okay, if I got to be prepared to hold the property if I can't flip it, right?
Yeah.
And then I'd say the second thing would be obviously, raising the money, raising the capital, right?
Yeah.
That would be the second part of it.
So, um, with everything that you've done, what would you say your secret sauce is? What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
Well, I mean, I've been given a tremendous gift by being able to work with my hands. I've had zero training from a little boy. I've always known how to fix stuff.
Mm,
Um, I spent 10 years in the home building industry. That's where I got started in construction. And I specifically spent a lot of time as an after sales service handyman.
mm,
So there I learned how to fix things after the home's built. For example, you can't tear things apart. You've got to really figure out how to do things. And so I came up with ways of fixing things where I would sleep well at night, knowing that that's a repair I would have done for myself, right? That was my golden rule. If it's good enough for you to sleep, that you did it in your own home, then it's good enough for someone else, right? So
mm-hmm.
I became very good at doing a lot of repair stuff. And so I'm really good that way with figuring things out and coming up with solutions, as well as another strong point I have is I source materials really cheap. So
Yeah, you were
I'm
mentioning
always,
that. So what's really cheap and what do you think your edge is in that? And, where does the edge come from that you're able to get it cheaper than the next guy?
I mean, it all depends what they get exposed to, right? Because, I go to retail stores, they're just not Home Depot and Rona and such, unless I really need to. But most of the time I go elsewhere, right? On
Mm,
this, on one job, actually, I had an electrician that went and bought 6 spotlights for $190. And I said, we're not using those. You're going to return them. And I bought 18 of them for $90.
yeah, now
So
you
it's a
have
big
this
difference,
project and the
right?
next and the next and the
Yeah, of
next. Yeah.
course. We only used 9 out of that. So, you got another 9 for somewhere else, right?
Yeah, for half or really
Yeah.
just over half of what they were already paying.
Yeah. Right, right.
So what are you doing to fund your deals these days?
Well, I mean, the ones I'm doing right now with my partners, one of my partners is the capital guy, so
Hmm.
he's very, very resourceful in getting us money, and it's been mainly private that
Yeah.
we've been using. So yeah, I mean, I carry out the work, each of us have our different roles, right? So
Yeah. So when you were looking for partners or capital partners, how did you find your current one?
I actually found, well, we're the three of us were part of a real estate group, so that's how we all got together. One of them I actually met first, which was at a real estate conference for a weekend, and kind of bumped into him, went up and talked to him, and I was actually working full time at that time, as an insurance appraiser, and I told him how I wanted to do real estate investing full time, and he basically said, "Just quit." And I
Yeah,
said,
just do
you
it.
know, you're crazy. I had just met him and I was like, it's not that easy to just quit your
Telling and
job.
yeah, he's telling you to quit your job, and you're
Yeah.
thinking half of you's going, good idea. The other half is like,
Yes,
maybe
yes.
maybe not such a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, was this at the time when you started real estate? Were you married or still, or this after?
Well, 2015 when it first started, I was going through divorce, yeah. But
Oh, okay.
you
So
know,
yeah, it's
so
like the wives don't really like it when the guy comes home after work and says, "Honey, I quit my job today." They don't really
yeah, yeah,
not really
yeah.
about that.
Well, I am remarried and my current wife fully supported when I did quit.
There you go.
So yeah.
So when you look at the way that you're, like how many deals are you planning to do this year? Is it mostly going to be flips?
I think so, but I do have also plans to step into multifamily as well. So I do want to start getting multifamily to hold.
Mm,
And then, the flips are the gravy, right?
yeah, it's that
So
that cash flow, right?
yeah, yeah. It gives you the cash flow, gives you the gravy. So I'd like to continue that. And I'm gonna have a goal to do at least 10 properties this year on the
Mm,
flip side. So
in the condos and other projects.
right, right. I like the condos so far because they're quick. I turn them around in 30 days. As my partner's proven that works. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So when you're doing your real estate, are you find the deal and then the money, or do you prefer to have your capital lined up and then go looking for deals?
What we've done up to this point is find the deal and then raise the capital. But I actually want to flip the other way
You
and
want to
make sure
actually
that we
start
have
raising capital and then
right,
putting the money in,
right,
or
right.
raising capital and then go looking for a deal. And that's
Yes,
typical with like multifamily, right? You're not really
yes.
going the other way. So, um, has it been mostly friends and family that you've been raising capital from?
No, totally private.
Nice, nice.
Totally
So when you're
private.
dealing with the private investors, what do you do to present your deal to a possible investor? How do you go about doing that?
We put together an investors package. Um, Goes over all the financials and property details, comparables, that sort of nature. And then that opens up discussion to what rates we're going to do and what amounts and things like that and when we're going to pay it back.
And these are like hard money loans, or are these like just
Yes,
someone you know?
yes, yeah,
And then
yeah. It's hard
you
money.
guys are bringing the down payment.
Yes, typically we're throwing the down payment down. There is the option to borrow that as well after you pay it so that you can pay yourself back, but we
Mm.
haven't done that yet.
So with your real estate that you're doing now, do you feel like you have enough network connections to capital that you're set for this year, or what are you going about to do to
No, definitely
expand it?
looking for more. Definitely looking for more for sure.
So what are some ways you've been able to expand your capital network this year, or rather, I guess 2023?
I mean, right now it's just all been about networking for me specifically. My
Hmm.
partner has some other ways that he raises capital as well, just through
Yeah.
relationships. But for me, it's been really getting out there and joining various groups and letting people know who I am and networking that way. So
Yeah. So when you do find and meet someone at, say, one of these networking events, how do you follow that up? How do you convert that into like a meeting? What's your process, if you care to let people know?
I typically ask, I try to find out what it is that they're doing, what part of
Hmm.
real estate are they in?
Right.
And then I can kind of sort that way to find out, are they someone that lends money? If they are, what would that look like?
Yeah.
So I just basically asked them a bunch of questions asking, if I had a deal, if I brought a deal to you, what would it look like for you to lend me money, right?
Yeah, definitely. When you're sorting out, how they want to lend as opposed to like just thinking about the money that you need, right? You want to have good
Right,
partnerships all the way through.
right.
So, you had mentioned a little bit before we got on the show that you're now going to start working for other investors.
Mhm.
How do you plan on is that just going to be like a word of mouth thing, or what do you plan to do as far as like your local area to get more people knowing that, hey, I'm available?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's going to mainly come from the real estate groups I'm a part of
Mm,
currently because people already know what I do. So people have already been asking. And, right now, due to my schedule, I kind of got to put things on hold because I'm currently doing one condo. I have one to start right after this in
mm-hmm,
about a week and a half. Um, so it's really about, for me, the key this year is going to be about getting more off of the tools and managing the projects more than
mm-hmm.
being hands-on. So that way I can help a lot more people, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be
If I stay on the tools, I can't necessarily do everybody's projects. So,
yeah, you got to be able to make moves and keep the tools going. I
right,
remember I
right.
was working on a job site, and um my buddy says, when I hear the sound of the drills going, that makes me happy. And if there's no drills going, that makes me sad. So he's like,
Yeah,
yeah. So, just keeping the noise up so that he knows that he's making money. He's like, if I hear drills, I know I'm making money. And it's like, okay, yeah,
right.
that makes sense, right? You don't want dead silence on the site.
Yeah.
So, with the projects you're planning to do and the projects you're planning to do for other people, um, how are you going to find time for that third project we were talking about? You're going to start a podcast. We were talking a
Mhm.
little bit about the 5 a.m. club. Um, let people know a little bit about that here for a minute.
Yeah. So I created a brand called Wake Up Legendary, and the podcast is going to be around interviewing successful business people, entrepreneurs on how they start their day to line up their day for success. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, part of my whole 2015 growth transformation was all about, what can I do to make my life better after this experience? And part of that came by me studying a lot of personal growth people. And, I came across 5 a.m. Club. I came across a few others
Mm-hmm.
that I follow. And I've always read personal growth books. All the books behind me are all personal growth books. And so yeah, so the podcast came from that, and I wanted to basically, it's a passion project where I want to help others see what I see, which is, you wake up early and spend time by yourself doing very specific things so that you can go out and create a better life for yourself and those you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with how you wake up, how you start your day. So,
Yeah,
and
the
from there,
silence of 5 a.m.
yeah,
No
absolutely.
one's
It's
trying to get your time. Like what? Because the
mhm,
thing that I find is when you're up late, there's lots of people up late.
yeah, yeah,
It's, people are up till 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, and you'll
right,
see them online. But wake up at
yeah,
5 and go to your like social media, like Messenger, um, and you'll realize that there's no one online yet. You're way
right.
ahead. You can like plant a bunch of seeds ahead of them. They wake up and you're ahead of them. So it's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
the other thing I like to think about too is I'm Central Standard Time, but the
Mhm.
business day starts on the East Coast at what time? If you want to be on like East Coast time, right? If you want to be
Right.
up at 9 a.m. on the East Coast, that means you got to wake up at like 7 or something, or 6 or something, depending on where you are in the time zone, right? To be competitive with what's happening in the New York, let's say New York Stock Exchange. Well, you got to be up at the time where you got to live on New York time or East Coast, Eastern Standard Time. So the earlier you can wake up, even if it's just to meet your competition, I think is always a great idea. And if you
Absolutely.
have if you have children, they'll wake you up anyways. The kids are up at
Yes,
6,
yes, for
7 o'clock in the
sure.
morning. They're on their own schedule. They
Yeah,
don't even know what time it is. They just know that it's time to get up. So
yeah.
um yeah, that's awesome. So you've adopted the 5 a.m. Since 2015 then, or something to that degree
Yeah,
anyway.
even prior to that, I actually started 2012 was when I really started it, but
Mm-hmm.
2015 was I got a little bit more serious about it because of my circumstances.
Mm.
But yeah, even
What do you
Saturday,
do with
Sunday,
your
I like
time? What do you do in the morning? Let's interview
reading is
you.
reading's a huge part of it for me.
Yeah.
Out of all the things that I've studied, all the speakers out there that have their morning programs. There's a guy by the name of Hal Elrod.
Mm-hmm.
He created a book in 2012 that I helped promote to launch called The Miracle Morning, and he sold over 2 million copies now. So I felt pretty good to help him, even though it was a very, very small piece of helping him promote and get that book out to the masses
Mm-hmm.
back in
Mm-hmm.
2012. And there's 6 things that he basically has in his miracle morning. And I don't do all 6 every morning, but I adopt whatever I feel I need to adopt that morning, whether it be meditation, affirmations, visualization. I definitely exercise every day, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I do some form of exercise for at least half an hour.
Yeah.
But reading is without fail. I read at least 10 pages a day, every day,
Yeah.
without fail. And so, that's, this year I've only ever read like a book a month kind of thing for many years. That's been my, I read and then I put it down. So and it's not consistent. And then, 2023, I said, I'm going to read 20 books this year. And I didn't know if I was actually going to hit that goal, and ended
Mm-hmm.
up hitting 30 books, in 2023. So it was actually pretty cool to see that happen. And that's just from sitting down, reading 10 pages or more a day, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
I was just thinking, like a lot of books, especially in the kind of self-help range, they're not 500, 600 pages. They're usually like
yeah,
180, 250
yeah,
pages. And you break those down into like 20 pages a day, and you got that thing cut up
yeah,
in 10 or 15 days. So it's just a matter of
yeah.
staying consistent, like anything in this life, staying
Yes, yes.
consistent with what you want. So
Mhm.
um if people want to reach out to you and find out more about what it is that you do and what you can do for them, how do they find you? What should they do?
Probably the best is Tribello Properties, Tribelo Properties on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been too active, but I'm trying to get more active into it. I got a late start on social media for my company anyway. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so yeah, that would probably be the best place.
Better than not at all, right? It's the best time
Yeah,
is today.
yeah,
So yeah, I
yeah,
really appreciate you stopping by, and I'm going to think a little bit more about waking up early. Put the
yeah,
seed
absolutely.
into my mind, Albert. Well, yeah, I really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.